Guys, this is absolutely insane. President Trump just called out Gavin Newsom in front of the entire world, and Newsom fires back with four tiny, tiny words. But when you look at the receipts, when you look at his own office's reportings and videos, this entire argument and Newsom as a whole begins to collapse and fall apart. All on today's episode of the Adam C. Moreno Show. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Also, if you think conversations like this matter, please consider liking, subscribing, and let's get started. So President Trump writes this on Truth Social today, saying that the governor is pushing for low-income housing in the Pacific Palisades, one of the hardest hit areas from the LA wildfires. I'll go ahead and read the whole thing, and then we will talk. President Trump says, shockingly, I've just learned that Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, is in final stages of approval to build low-income housing in Pacific Palisades. How unfair is it that people that have suffered so much, Newsom allowed their houses to burn by not accepting hundreds of millions of gallons of water from the Pacific Northwest, and now the low-income housing starts rising long before he gets permits for California citizens to rebuild. But long after the federal permits were issued, Lee Zeldin, EPA administrator, and I, as president, have done the job and produced all permits long before anybody expected that to happen. Unfortunately, the governor of California and Mayor Karen Bass failed you. Gavin Newsom's plan to build low-income housing at the super luxury Pacific Palisades fire site is what caused the destruction of the late great New York City Mayor John Lindsay's political career, and John Lindsay was a Republican. So verbally, shots were fired at the leadership in California, Gavin Newsom, along with LA Mayor Karen Bass. And then Gavin goes on the defense saying, oh, this is a straight up lie. Those are the four teeny tiny words from California's governor. But is it, Gavin? Is it really? Because whenever we look at your own website, look at this. He is pleased to announce the $101 million to jumpstart critical rebuilding efforts after LA fires. Okay, but let's go ahead and read a little bit more. Okay, look at this. Will support the development of affordable multifamily rental housing in Los Angeles. All right. Did you see that? So when we look at this language very precisely, it says multi-family rental housing. And whenever I first read this, I thought, okay, whoa, let's pause the brakes a little bit, because this could just be the houses that were most impacted, right? But no, look at this. 89% of homes destroyed by Los Angeles fires were single family residences. Okay. Check this out. I'll read this a little bit. According to Redfin, approximately 14% of homes within the perimeters of the Palisades and Eaton fires in the Los Angeles area have been destroyed or damaged. This amounts to 6,354 homes, of which 5,449, 86%, were completely destroyed, and 905. And if you scroll down just a bit, look at this. Single-family homes comprise the majority of the affected properties, accounting for 89%. 5,636 homes. Multifamily properties made up 11%, 707 units, while less than 1%, 11 units, were mobile homes. So there you have it. Are you kidding me? While victims are waiting for their houses to be rebuilt, Newsom is pouring the disaster relief money into apartment complexes and then lying to your face about it. Where is the conviction of this man? Where is the spine? So I believe President Trump was right when he shared these words about Gavin Newsom on the Palisades fire weeks ago. Check this out.
And now they're talking about taking some of those sites and building low-income housing on them. These are high-end neighborhoods. And I'm all for low-income housing. I built a lot of low-income housing. I know all about 236. I know every program that there is in the government. I used every one of them. I know more about low-income housing than probably almost anybody. And it's great. It's fine. It's wonderful. But you don't build it in Pacific Palisades. You don't build it there, and you don't build it in the other areas that burned down. So they're talking about putting up low-income housing. And you talk about riots. They're going to have riots if that happens, because you're taking the people's property away. They want to build their houses, and they're unable to get permits from the mayor and from the governor. And that's a terrible thing.
I know so many people on the left hate giving this man credit, but he is right on the money here. And this is a terrible thing. And lying about it is just disgusting. I am genuinely shocked at the buffoonery here. His press office, again, says it very clearly. Newsom unveils $101 million to build Palisades low-income housing. That's flatly wrong. This funding is not limited to the Palisades. What? This funding is not limited to the Palisades. People were upset about the low-income housing part of the Palisades, and you're saying, oh no, that's wrong, but it's wrong for the wrong reasons. They're actually expanding here. This is robbery in plain daylight. And what does Gavin Newsom do in the middle of this controversy? Look at this. He goes on a podcast. I'm not kidding. This was today.
Crisis of the rigging of the midterms. And we need to win this at peril that we'll lose this republic, we'll lose this democracy. It is not an overstatement.
Now, I do want to say, I kind of want to transition this conversation just a bit, because this is days after Charlie Kirk's assassination, when many are working to lower the temperature. Gavin again strokes this idea that President Trump's politics are a threat to democracy. Okay. And right after I saw this incredible clip from Speaker Johnson, essentially asking everyone, elected leaders, to turn down the rhetoric. Right after I just saw Gavin Newsom just stroke that fear again. Look at this.
If we all adopt these practices together and we turn down the rhetoric, we cease with this idea that policy disputes are somehow an existential threat to democracy or the republic. We stop calling one another names. I mean, calling people Nazis and fascists is not helpful. Look, there are some deranged people in society, and when they see leaders using that kind of language so often now, increasingly, it spurs them on to action. We have to recognize that reality and address.
This is leadership. So good. I couldn't agree more. And Democrats are also sharing the same sentiment. John Fetterman today on Fox, I saw this. He slams many in his own party for this inflaming rhetoric. Check this out.
People have seemed to have forgotten that the president took a shot to the head. And can you imagine if that shot would have gone the way Charlie Kirk's one, and what kind of condition our nation would be in? This is such a dangerous time right now. And now why? You don't need this an opportunity to share your opinions on it. Just, again, it's appalling, and allow folks enough space to grieve. The man hasn't even buried yet. And it's like, that's why we wanted to have a conversation, that we have to find a way to work together. Don't come.
Fetterman's words left the room silent. This is, again, what leadership looks like. Do I always agree with what Fetterman has to say? No. Do I always agree with the way that he votes? Absolutely not. But him calling for the lowering of the temperature to make people be a little bit more precise in their language, I think that's probably a net positive. All right. And not the stroking of the fear or the threats, what we are seeing from Gavin Newsom. And I know some people don't like it whenever I talk about Gavin, but he is the most popular Democrat right now through and through in September 2025. And it is a real possibility that he's going to be the Democrat candidate for president. So this does matter. What happens in California does matter, because it could happen in your backyard. But I do want to end the video with this. Just the other day, I saw Stephen A. Smith talking about Newsom, and I think he absolutely nailed it.
I'm not down with Gavin Newsom, because my issue with Gavin Newsom is, like, listen, you look great in those blue suits. You're very articulate, very smart, very quick-witted. I love how you've been trolling Trump, because I thought that was necessary, in order to compete with Trump. But I can't ignore the fact that you're number one in unemployment, number one in homelessness and poverty and all of this other stuff, and the price of the affordability issues in California. I can't ignore all of that. I can't ignore the fact that there's no way I can see you winning an election with some of the things that have been happening in the state of California.
You see, at some point, style without substance doesn't just fail. It insults the very people you are serving who are suffering. And if you ask me, California families deserve better. But that's just what I'm thinking. All right. Anyways, let me know what you think about all this in the comment section. What do you think about this video? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? And if you made it this far, please consider liking, subscribing, turn on that bell. You know the bell. You know the one that all these other YouTubers tell you to turn on, the little notification bell. It'll let you know. You do the thing. All right. And as always, have a great, beautiful day. Episode's over already? Geez, that was fast. Well, they say beautiful things do not last forever, but feel free to watch and listen to another one of these episodes if you're interested in those conversations as well. Also, this next part is huge. Make sure to obliterate that like and subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never skip a beat. I also have a newsletter where we dive into the news, politics, and ideas that shape our future. If you're interested in signing up, I'd really appreciate that. Anyways, that's the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I'll see you next time.